It is time for the Ryne Sandberg statue dedication presented by UI Health. On the 40th anniversary of the Sandberg game, his statue will be unveiled, and fans have been here for hours. What a showing from fans across Chicago as Hall of Famers make their way into Gallagher Way to get a glimpse of their friend. Ryne Sandberg, of course, making his way in with his wife. And they are ready to go, as all of these fans are as well. And that is what we are getting started for here right now. When you see that button hit, that is when we will see the statue. The curtain will fall and we will get our first glimpse of the Sandberg statue. It is a very exciting day for Ryno and his family and for everyone here at Gallagher Way. It's Elise Menaker and Bruce Levine here with you. Bruce, we're getting set. And what are you most looking forward to?
Well, I'm most looking forward to Ryne making his speech and talking about all the important people in his life. The type of teammate he was is exactly the type of person Ryne is. He's always everybody else first, team first. That's the type of man he was. That's the type of player he was.
I was going to say, as good of a player as Ryno was, he was an even better person. So what a day that we get to celebrate Ryne Sandberg. With that, the MC of this statue dedication, Cole Wright, take it away.
Thank you very much, Elise. Thanks, everyone, for coming out here. Obviously, a very special day, and she made mention, hard to believe, 40 years ago to the day, the Sandberg game. It went down right behind us at this cathedral that we all know and love as Wrigley Field. Now, to help us relive that day in an extremely fitting honor for this man right here, the center of attention. Of course, a few familiar faces are going to help us in that process, and I'll go down at the end right there. I'll start with a teammate, Shawon Dunston, teammate Larry Bowa, the man that called the game, the Sandberg game, Bob Costas, and of course the reason that we're all here, the man, the myth, the legend, 1984 National League MVP, Ryne Sandberg. And before all the festivities get underway today, we know how fantastic of an afternoon it's going to be, but, well, I'd like to say some few words from this gentleman right here. It's the Cubs chairman, Tom Ricketts. Tom, come on up.
Thanks, Cole. Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of my family and the Cubs organization, I want to welcome everyone to Wrigley Field and Gallagher Way for this historic event. First, I would like to extend an extra special welcome to our friends from the National Baseball Hall of Fame, Chairperson Jane Forbes Clark and Josh Rich. Are you here? Anyway, thank you for being here. But you know, as we speak of the Hall of Fame, it brings to mind something that I think is really cool, and I know I did this with the Fergie statue, but when you really think of what it takes to get in the Hall of Fame, you have literally tens of millions of kids playing baseball, growing up in the U.S. for over 100 years, playing the game as hard as they can. Of those kids, 21,000-ish make it to Major League Baseball. Of those 21,000, about 276 have made it into the Hall of Fame. I think the number is 76 in the Hall of Fame are still with us, and 5 of them are here today. Would everyone who's a Hall of Fame member please stand up? And since we are talking about Hall of Famers, let's have a special acknowledgement for our broadcasting Hall of Famers. From the class of 2018, Bob Costas. And from the class of 2023, our very own Pat Hughes. And as long as we're acknowledging the great people in attendance today, I would like to think that if, and there probably should be, if there was a Hall of Fame for the world's most incredible spouses, I'm sure that Margaret Sandberg would be unanimous first ballot inductee. Let's have a round of applause for Margaret and the Sandberg family. Today is so very special as we get to honor one of the greatest players of all time on the 40th anniversary of one of the greatest games of all time. A game that started as the game of the week and ended as a game for the ages. And if you've never seen what is now known to history as the Ryne Sandberg game, we play it on Marquee Network a lot, so check it out sometime. So today is a perfect day to celebrate and commemorate the incredible career of Ryne Sandberg. Now, every baseball fan knows Ryne Sandberg as a true five-tool player. That hit for average and power, that led to 7 Silver Sluggers. Who had a great glove and a strong arm, that led to 9 Gold Gloves. And true speed, it led to 54 stolen bases in 1985. When you combine all those things, added up to 10 All-Star games. Truly an amazing career. And while we all know Ryne is an amazing athlete, but what fans may not know about Ryne is that in addition to being a basketball star, he was the top-rated triple option quarterback in high school, and his senior year received scholarships from all the major colleges, including Tom Osborne coming to his house in Spokane to try to recruit him for football. But fortunately for all of us, Ryne made the right decision and decided to play professional baseball instead. And more fortunately for us, he was traded to the Cubs in 1982, and it is truly no exaggeration to say that this organization would never be the same again. Ryne, of course, would go on to play 15 seasons in a Cub uniform, and while Ryne had many great years, and there were some very good teams over that period of time, none of those seasons were more impactful or more memorable as 1984. We have a lot of the guys from 1984 team here. Let's give them a round of applause. But with respect to Ryne in 1984, very few players in baseball history have ever meant more to their team, and very few teams in baseball history have ever meant more to their fans. And 1984 was a lot more than just a great season around here. The 1984 Cubs not only rewarded existing fans with the first playoff appearance in 39 years, but created a whole new generation of fans with a cast of one of the most compelling teams ever assembled in baseball, and led by a young five-tool, soon-to-be MVP second baseman. The Cubs owned the daytime airwaves as they were carried across the nation by WGN. That team, WGN, you can cheer for WGN if you want. But that team created millions of new Cub fans, both locally and around the country. I include myself in that category, and made the Cubs a truly national team. So 1984 was more than just a great season. It should be remembered as a true inflection point in Cubs history. And while Ryne is undoubtedly one of the best players of all time on one of the best Cubs teams of all time, no look back at Ryne Sandberg's contribution to the game would be complete without a little bit about Ryne the person. As he laid out beautifully in his Hall of Fame speech, and by the way, I would recommend everyone go to YouTube and watch it, Ryne truly and deeply respected the game of baseball. But what is equally true is that he is a player who truly and deeply respected the fans. And I don't know a player of his caliber more willing to spend time with the people that really make this team great, the Cubs fans. One thing a lot of people don't know about Ryne is that when he was a minor league manager in Tennessee and Iowa, he would set aside time every single game to go out and meet fans and sign baseballs and talk to people that came to the ballpark. No one said you had to do that, but that's who Ryne is. And I think that probably says more about Ryne Sandberg than any stats on a piece of paper. So as generations of fans come here to honor a Cub legend immortalized in bronze, They will, of course, know that Ryne Sandberg was one of the greatest baseball players of all time. But I hope they will also know that the real Ryne Sandberg would never put himself on a pedestal, and if, like in some crazy movie, the statue ever came to life, he would step down, ask your name, shake your hand, and tell you a couple good stories. Thank you, Ryne Sandberg.
Very nice. First of all, I'm really nervous today. I played in World Series and everything. I see all the Hall of Famers out here and everybody congregating here for the great Ryne Sandberg. But I want to thank the Ricketts family for bringing us all together on this special day. And I'd also like to welcome Margaret and the entire Sandberg family. "40 years ago today, everyone knows what happened right here at Wrigley Field. Ryno hit 2 home runs off of Hall of Famer Bruce Sutter on a national TV game, and his career took off from then. I'm not here to talk about his stats. Everybody knows how great Ryne was. Home runs, stolen bases, fielding percentage, you name it, Ryan's at the top of the list. But I will tell you, he is a great husband, a great father, and a great grandfather. And he's probably more proud of that than any baseball accolades he's ever received. Ryno was also an unbelievable teammate. He would always tell you, come on, let's go. We got to win this game. Do this, do that. Hey, this guy's giving away pitches. This is what he does. But he played the game one way. He played hard, and he played to win. And there's not a lot of guys that play now that play to win. I wanted to win more than anybody that I've ever played with. He always encouraged everybody, whether you were 0 for 20 or 20 for 20. But don't let that mild-mannered demeanor fool you. He could instigate in the clubhouse with anybody. Bobby D and Sarge and Bull and me would be talking, and Ryno would walk by and say something that knew we would get in an argument, and then you see him walking away, and that unbelievable smile and giggle would permeate through the clubhouse. Then he'd go to another locker and do the same things. But he was always trying to stir up things in a very positive way. It's unbelievable what he meant in our clubhouse. You know, everything didn't come easy for Ryno. He started off his career, think about this, 0 for 31. Starting your career 0 for 31, on the 31st time he hit a line drive that was caught, and one of his teammates said, hang in there, way to swing it. And he said, you hang in there. I'm tired of them catching all these line drives. Right then, I knew Ryno. The mental toughness was there. The desire to excel was there. And we all know what happened the rest of the way. He's the kind of guy that, in my opinion, he was never satisfied what he did on the playing field. He was always prepared. He would take ground ball after ground ball, extra BP. You would never see Ryne Sandberg not prepared to play a baseball game. When Ryno, I got to tell you one story before. I'll give you a story about the pop-ups. When I came over here, we had no lights here. And the wind and the sun, I caught them, but I didn't like going after them. So once we got to know each other and the ball went in the middle of the diamond, my favorite line was, Ryno, you got room. I don't care where that ball was. I had Ryno catch it because I knew he wasn't going to drop it. Well, lo and behold, I left Chicago. And Shawon Dunston comes. And was another great Cub. Sure enough, the ball goes up, and Ryno says, you got room, Shawon. So he passed my knowledge on to Shawon, and Shawon ended up catching all the pop-ups. You know, when Ryno called me and asked me to speak today, it meant the world to me. I was there for his induction into the Hall of Fame, and to be part of this celebration means a lot. And the fact that he gave me a call, you know, he could very easily say, oh, you know, I played with Bo, no big deal. But the fact that he called me meant so much to me in my career as an ex-player, ex-manager, ex-coach. I have all the respect in the world for Ryno. Ryno, you are now forever immortalized here at Wrigley Field with Ron Santo, Fergie Jenkins, Billy Williams, and Ernie Banks. And I can't think of a more fitting honor for one of the best players to ever wear a Cub uniform. Congratulations, my friend. I love you.
Thank you. And thanks, I'd like to thank the Ricketts family, the Chicago Cubs family. And I don't know why I'm here. I mean, supposed to be my teammates here who all helped me get here. And we're all talking about Ryne, which is beautiful, but like Larry said, Ryne was a troublemaker. He wasn't what you think he was. But he always played hard and he minded his business. When I came up, I had to sit next to Ryne. He does not talk. Then the next year, it was Andre Dawson. My locker was right next to these two quiet guys. And I like to talk. I like to have a good time. But he was teaching me how to play the game, how to act, how to be a professional player, which is very important that most guys don't know how to do yet. I had Rick Sutcliffe on me, all my old teammates, Leon Durham, Bob Denier, Gary Matthews, always telling me to slow down. Everybody told me so. I said, no, you slow down. You catch up to me. But they was teaching me how to slow down and see things, which was very important. Now that I'm older, I see it real clear, but it's not helping me. But I really appreciate Ryne being my teammate because when I played short, I was active, I was kind of wild, but he was calm. But if I would have played with somebody like me, it wouldn't have worked. So the opposite attract, which is so good. And he was so quiet. And the first time I get up here, he said, Shawon, you got everything. I go, what do you mean? Well, when the ball's back to the pitcher, you covering. Steal, you covering. I said, what you going to do? Don't worry about it, just cover. So everyone thought he was getting on me, but he was teaching me to keep my mind in the game because my mind wanders. I'm 21. I'm playing with old guys. I call them old. I'm 21, everybody's 25, 28, 30. They don't talk, but the difference when you play with men, they check their ego at the door. I had to understand that. It was hard. So I couldn't wait till Maddox and Grace come because we all think alike. So the game was much easier when I played, but I learned, and I wouldn't change nothing for the world. Now, I'm going to tell you some stories about Ryne, like Larry with the pop-up. How Ryne approached me with the pop-ups was like, Shawon, I need to talk to you, which he never does talk, so I'm going to listen. He goes, you get all the pop-ups. I'm saying, you got the gold glove. Why you want me to catch it? So he just looks at me, just quiet. I said, okay. He said, there's no bad hops in the air. I said, correct. All right. Then he said, it helps your fielding average. I didn't know about the fielding average. The only average I cared about was my batting average. And he taught me about little things about the game. But he wanted me to keep my mind in the game at all times. There's stories about Ryne. He lights everybody's shoes on fire. They all blame me, which it wasn't. It was Ryne, and he smirks and laughs and has a good time. I mean, Ryne tried to set up pitchers when a guy would throw a curveball and he would shake. I said, Grace, what is he doing? He said, he's setting the guy up. I said, yeah, okay. And the guy throws a curveball, gets a home run. Okay, I try to do that. But the next pitch was a slider. You all know what happened. But and with Ryne, it was nice, but a true story, too, was when Ryne was playing, he made an error between his legs. A ball went between his legs. And when Ryne makes an error, it makes me nervous because I know I'm going to make an error, too, because he never makes none. And the ball went between his legs, and he said, what happened? I said, you know what happened. It went through your legs. And he told me I will never make another error this year. And that's when he broke the record for the most games played at second base without an error. And I like to thank all my teammates helping me get here who I haven't seen in 20, 30 years. And I'm listening now because I'm older and I understand. But I thank you, Ryne, for being my teammate. This is such an honor, and you are the best second baseman. Thank you.
just once, I'd like to be able to approach a microphone and not have to lower it. Take a look up there. That is respect. The Sandberg game. How many baseball games have a title, have a name? Think of what really is the biggest game in Cub history, since none of us were around in 1908. Game 7 in 2016 isn't the Ben Zobrist game. It's not the Kyle Hendricks game. You know, it's not the Chris Bryant game. It's not the David Ross game. It doesn't have a title. But the Sandberg game has a title. The signature game of a Hall of Fame career. Most Hall of Famers, even the greatest of the great, get there in cumulative fashion. When you think about them, you don't necessarily think of a single game or a single moment. One exception passed away this past week, Willie Mays. For all he did, it's the back-to-the-plate catch in the 1954 World Series that will always be his signature. And when you think of Hank Aaron, you think of him passing Babe Ruth and all that meant, not just in baseball, but to America. You think of that. But not many Hall of Famers have a single moment or a single game that comes to mind first. Why is that the case with Ryne Sandberg? You need some context. Those of us who were around for it understand, and as Tom Ricketts said, it's replayed all the time, along with documentaries on the Marquee network, so even if you're 12 years old, you can kind of get the idea. It was on the Game of the Week, and I was just lucky enough to be there, along with Tony Kubek. But what did the Game of the Week mean in the 1980s? It was often the only game that was on TV all week long if you lived in a city that didn't have a major league team. When we'd be at the batting cage, Vin Scully and Joe Garagiola, or me and Tony Kubek on a Friday, the players would look at us and say, "Oh, we're the game of the world tomorrow." That meant that the whole country was seeing it, but also much of Major League Baseball, their peers, if they weren't playing at the same time, would see that game. So it's a beautiful Saturday afternoon at Wrigley Field. Lights are still 4 or 5 years away. So naturally, the Cubs, even when they were lousy, were on the Game of the Week a lot because they played on Saturday afternoons. But in '84, the Cubs went from lovable losers to pennant contenders. And this is the game that marks Ryne Sandberg as a front runner for MVP, marks the Cubs as no longer a laughingstock, but as a contender, and they go all the way to the cusp of the World Series before that dream finally ends. What did Ryne Sandberg do that year? He hit .314 with, among other things, 19 triples. The triple is on the endangered species list these days. He hit 19 of them. But then you got to think of the rest of the context of the game. It's against the Cardinals, and that matters because it's, oh, stop. Okay, I get it. It's against the Cardinals, so you have the rivalry, and you have a little bit of red in the stands at Wrigley, too. And Steve Trout is here, and he told me earlier, Steve Trout started that game for the Cubs, and he takes credit for setting the stage for Ryne Sandberg because Rainbow Trout didn't have it that day. So the Cubs are down 7-1, they're down 9-3, and then the comeback starts, and pretty soon it's 9-8, and then in the 9th, Suter's on the hill, Hall of Famer, Ryne goes deep, and then in the 10th, the Cardinals score 2 more, and with 2 out and nobody on a borderline 3-2 pitch, Bobby Dernier draws a walk, up comes Sandberg again, and the same thing happens, almost to exactly the same spot in the left center field bleachers, almost like the same fan could have caught it. And as some of you may remember, in the 80s, it was a great time for baseball movies. Field of Dreams, 8 Men Out, Bull Durham, The Natural. And The Natural had come out only a few weeks before that game. And I recall saying something to the effect of, Roy Hobbs, The Natural, played by Robert Redford, would be happy to be Ryne Sandberg today because this is almost something out of mythology. And the game was legendary almost right away. We know it is 40 years ago from then, but almost right away. A few months later, I get a phone call from my good friend Ahmad Rashad, who was also a good friend of Bill Murray, who is here today. Bill, as most of you know, Bill, a true Cub fan, who named a son Homer Banks Murray, which shows his level of devotion. But he was out of the country shooting a film called The Razor's Edge in Europe, and he hadn't seen the game. So Ahmad says, do you have a tape of the Sandberg game? It's already called the Sandberg game, and it's just the winter of 1984 into 85. I said, yeah, I do. And having a tape then meant a VHS tape, 4 unwieldy tapes. Stuff wasn't at your fingertips like it is now. He says, I'll be over in 10 minutes. All right, the doorbell rings. I open the door, and he's standing there with Bill Murray. And we sit down and we watch the Sandberg game. It was already legendary. When that game ended, the press went into the Cardinal clubhouse as well as the Cub clubhouse to talk to their manager, Whitey Herzog, always good for a quote. They said, what did you think of what Sandberg did today? And he said, I thought I was watching Baby Ruth. Well, ever since then, and today especially, Ryne Sandberg joins Babe Ruth's called shot in the 1932 World Series at Wrigley Field as part of everlasting Wrigley lore. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryne Sandberg.
Thank you. How we doing, Cub fans? What a beautiful day this is. It's an awesome day. You know what? Thank you, Bob. When I first learned about this incredible honor 18 months ago, I thought quite a bit about what I would say, about the magnitude of this day, about this franchise, and about the amazing 1984 season, and about a magical day in June some 40 years ago. By the way, you're welcome, Bob, for those highlights the Cub fans watch every year, and they've heard so many times. 40 years. 40 years. When you look at some of my former teammates, so many of them from here, from the 1984 season, from the 89 season, it seems like more than 50 years, but I won't mention names there. My life changed a lot in 1984, but that's nothing compared to what had happened 6 months ago. So my thoughts today are instead about love, life, family, and friends. My teammates fall into all those categories, but until my cancer diagnosis, I guess I never fully understood that. The number of people in baseball that have reached out to me this year is astonishing. Some I haven't had in contact in 20 or 30 or 40 years. I feel that love now that was always there, but I was too busy grinding out extra 60 ground balls every morning to know that it was happening. We are what we are, and that was me. I love you guys. And what you mean to me can't be summed up in a few words here today. That goes for my Hall of Fame family as well, which also turns out and supports And today that family grieves with us all for the greatest player ever, Willie Mays. And please, my thoughts and prayers go out to Lee Smith, our rock-solid closer in 1984. He could use that. As for the fans, you always made it clear how you felt. You carried me my entire career, but you have taken it to a whole new level, and I have felt every one of your posts on social media and in person by your comments. You are my friends as well, and now you have carried me through months of chemo and radiation. I'll never be able to thank you properly. You don't get a statue by yourself. Every one of my teammates and coaches stands right there with me. After all, none of this happens if a disgruntled Larry Bowa doesn't want out of Philadelphia. Thanks, Larry, for always being disgruntled. And thanks for making me chase all those pop-ups. And that was all because of the sun and the wind, like you guys talked about, how tough it is here at Wrigley. But Bo, thanks for showing me the ropes. My next shortstop, Shawon Dunston, we learned a lot from each other, and we played for many years together. But the one thing he never taught me was how to suffer a hamstring tweak the day before we were facing Nolan Ryan. And then be completely healthy the next day and getting 3 hits off of the soft-throwing left-hander. Shawon, we were all-stars together. It's miraculous what can happen when dreams meet opportunity and hard work. Your dreams come true and much, much more than you ever dreamed. So here we are today, standing in front of this statue, knowing the greats that already have immortalized in bronze around this grand old ballpark, the heroes of the youth and the heroes of Cubs baseball. I am so proud that this statue is a baseball player playing defense. Defense was always number one for me. Change the game all you want, but you don't win championships without good defense. This statue represents to me 80s and 90s baseball. At Wrigley Field, on WGN, 162 games, in the sunshine, and on my toes, prepared for every play in the game. It's also kind of funny because when I arrived here, I didn't have a position. I had more gloves in my locker than bats with my name on it, which was actually 0. I had 0 bats, but I had my 3 gloves I brought from the minor leagues. But I had a center fielder glove, a third base glove, shortstop, and second baseman's glove. I did not have a catcher's mitt, though. Very smart on my part. Thinking about a statue? How about more like a bus ticket to Iowa after my 1-for-31 start? But here we are, commitment, work ethic, and dreams. Those are all good words. Faith, family, friends, and love. These are also very good words. They are probably the best words for me. I am not here without all those words. I am not here without my family, without my teammates, without Dallas Green, and without Cubs ownership. I want to very I'm very grateful to Tom Ricketts for this wonderful honor. To my wife, Margaret, I lifted you up in my arms almost 30 years ago, and now you have lifted me up and put me on your back. I couldn't have done this without you. I love you. To all the rest of you who can hear these words, thank you for being my friend in 2024. I truly thank you. Thank you very much.
Commitment, dedication, and dreams. What a combination. Incredible. Ryno, thank you, obviously, for everything. And again, what a day for a class for all seasons. Now, I'd like to invite all the grandkids up here because there's a plunger, obviously, that is going to bring that thing down. Once that statue is unveiled, it's going to be a big time. Everyone come on up, the grandkids. There we are. So everyone ready to do this? I want you to join in the countdown with me. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Ryno, thoughts? Pretty accurate. It's pretty good. Perfect day for one of the greatest of all time. No doubt about it. Like we said, a class for all seasons. Family, everyone come on up here. Obviously some pictures that need to be taken on this special day that it is. And we want all the fans that are going to be out here in Gallagher Way, obviously at the ball game too. There's going to be a Ryno pop-up exhibit right over there. So be sure to take the time out. Go honor greatness. Come and take a picture with the statue because it's one of the best to ever do it. Ryno, thank you so much. Thank you, Cubs fans, for being out here. And thank you, everyone, for being a part of this very special day. Elise Menaker, Bruce Levine, back to you guys.
Oh, thank you so much. Bruce, our first look at the statue, what are your thoughts?
It's pretty amazing. It really is, because it really depicts Ryno at his very best, who he was. He was always a consummate guy that was ready for the next pitch. Never caught unprepared. And really, if you look at that statue, you look at a guy that always had 100% concentration on what had to happen next, never thinking anything but.
It's so funny because when Ryno and I first met, we bonded over hitting. But to your point, if anything stuck out, it was that just how prepared he was, always ready, practicing, thinking about the game, ways he could get better. Talked about being on his toes, too, ready for every pitch. You can kind of see it there in the statue, too. To be able to see this now in Gallagher Way at Wrigley for the rest of time, what does it mean for this organization?
Well, it means a lot for the organization, but it means more for the fans who Sandberg played for and all the Cubs played for. It means so much for the Sandberg family for many generations to come. It just depicts one of the great players in the history of this franchise that goes back to 1876, which is awfully special. So for him to be up here with all these other iconic guys just makes it special. And every time a fan comes here, whether they're 4 years old or 95, they get to see Ryne Sandberg at his very best.
Yeah, that has to be one of the most special parts, that he will always be a part of history, and rightfully so. And as he takes time to take pictures with his family, he will be joining us for an interview. So we'll get to hear all about just his thoughts on today, what it means to him, which I'm very much looking forward to.
I'm looking forward to him talking about the journey, because I was lucky enough to see him get his first hit. I was lucky enough to see him get his last hit. His first hit came as a Philadelphia Philly in 1981 in September. It's the only hit he got from the Phillies before he was traded here with Larry Bowa for Ivan DeJesus. And Dallas Green, the general manager of the team at that time, said, "I'm not making that trade, Bowa, for DeJesus without getting that kid Sandberg."
He even said, "Thanks for being so disgruntled," Larry, in his speech, making a joke about it. What does it mean to have him on this statue row, which the Cubs have done just such a great job with, to have him cap it off? You have a couple now fielding and a couple in their hitting positions. Just what's it going to be like to walk by it every day?
Well, I mean, again, the way the Ricketts family has envisioned this, along with Crane Kenny, the president of business, and Jed Hoyer, president of baseball operations, is that for generations, Cub fans really never had anywhere to go to celebrate those heroes. Now they have a Hall of Fame behind the left field wall. They have these statues. They have Gallagher Way, which is going to be, for the next 100 years, a place for people to come and celebrate, take pictures. You know, the Chicago Cubs organization runs people in here all year round, as far as different people coming in, going on seeing this place. And it's pretty amazing how much it means. In New York, you have Yankee Stadium, okay? In Boston, you have Fenway. In Chicago's Wrigley Field is second to none.
And I think we have to talk about, as much as today is about honoring Ryno as a player, I think just the person, too, we have to talk about, because he is so humble, so kind, always willing to give his time, thinks about others, and covering him for his career. I mean, you can speak to that as well.
Well, I saw a very shy guy because he never wanted to disrespect his teammates. So when we went to interview him in 1982, 83, 84, he would say very little because he was always afraid of saying something that was about him and not team. And it took him many years to be able to talk about himself, because he really felt it was not a part of what winning was all about. He never wanted it to be about Ryne Sandberg, and that's part of what made him great, at least.
Yeah, no doubt. And when you think about his career, Bruce, and we'll talk to Ryno about it as well, but just what sticks out to you among all of his accolades? What impresses you the most?
Just his work ethic, okay? First to the ballpark, first on the field. He talked about Larry Bowa and him taking ground balls an hour before batting practice. I would be there watching them from the press box, go on the field and watch them. He developed that work ethic, that work routine, and it was a big part of why he was successful. He had great talent, but it took that type of work ethic to get every ounce out of it. And I don't think Ryne Sandberg left any of that anywhere but on the field. I think he gave everything he had, and I think the fans of the Cubs were lucky enough to see all of it.
And lucky enough to see that Sandberg game today, the 40th anniversary. That's why the unveiling of the statue is today. What do you remember from that game? What impressed you the most? Because we can go on and on about everything he's done.
What I remember is what Bob Costas talked about, and that was such a dominated game by the Cardinals early that Willie McGee of the Cardinals went hit for the cycle, and they named him in the 9th inning the player of the game, which was a big deal back then on a Saturday. And just as it came out of Bob Costas' mouth, Sandberg's home run in the 9th inning went out. Another one went out in the 10th, and this ended up being the Sandberg game. And Bob still has to answer questions from Cub fans about naming Willie McGee the star of the game, even though it wasn't Bob's choice.
That game will always be remembered. This statue now will always be remembered, as it'll always be here in Gallagher Way on Statue Row. Now, we are going to talk to Ryno coming up. We're going to hear from him for the first time since his statue was unveiled, so don't go anywhere. We're coming right back on Marquee Sports Network.
Cubs fans, looking for more discussion about your Cubs after the ball game?
Stick around after Cubs games for Cubs Post-Game Live, presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois.
What did you see in that at bat?
I saw a fastball.
Stick around after the last out for in-depth analysis, experts who break down plays, and look ahead to the upcoming series. Don't miss it.
The comeback wins, the home runs that they've had, it makes a huge difference.
Catch Cubs Post-Game Live, presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois, only on Marquee Sports Network.
Leave the details to us.
I just wanna have a good time. Call me whatever. 'Cause I'm up for anything like that. We don't wanna do slow-mo, so tonight we just let go. Sing it like to the beat in the streets, every street I sing like.
And escape the everyday at Four Winds Casinos.
At UI Health, we're creating a new foundation for expert care. Introducing our new specialty care building, a state-of-the-art clinic space and expansive outpatient surgery center where we can provide more same-day robotic surgeries and innovative treatments for transplants, complete eye care, cancer, and more. A healthier future starts here. We are UI Health.
Dunston has some space to operate off the left. Oh, the strike is in!
The Chicago Red Stars are on Marquee Sports Network, presented by Sloan. Catch Mallory Swanson, Alyssa Nair, and the Chicago Red Stars all season long on Marquee Sports Network and the Marquee Sports Network app.
Chicago's back on top!
Tune in tonight at 5 o'clock as the Red Stars head to North Carolina to face the NC Courage. Right here on Marquee Sports Network.
Chicago!
Presented by Sloan.
You're watching the Ryne Sandberg statue dedication presented by UI Health. And just moments ago, we got the first glimpse of the Ryne Sandberg statue in his defensive position, always ready. Very Rhino-esque, very fitting, and very well done. It's an exciting day as we all get to enjoy this together and see it. Rhino with his friends and family. He will be joining us shortly as he, when I say shortly, I didn't know you were over my shoulder, Rhino. Hey, how you doing?
We on?
We're on, we're live, we're doing it live.
Great. I'm doing
Yeah, tell us your reactions.
pretty amazing. You know what? Just to the outpouring of the people today and that my whole family here and relatives and friends and everything that little bit of a journey that I've been on. You know what? This is about as good as it gets, no doubt about it.
When you first saw the statue, and I know you were we can talk about your involvement in the process, but what were your thoughts when you first saw it?
Well, I like the big arms there. It's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. I guess that's where the power came later.
Absolutely.
But no, very very cool. I admire the gold on the Gold Glove. I love the flip down sunglasses. I never took a game. I never took the field at Wrigley Field without having those sunglasses on because they were a big part of the uniform. So with what Sean and Larry were talking about, we all have a respect for the middle of the diamond there with the wind at Wrigley Field and some of the other ballparks, but also the sunshine. So it was something. It was a big part of my uniform was the flip down glasses. But you know what? I love the retro jersey there, the pullover jersey, and the elastic pants and the stirrups. It's 80s, 90s baseball at its best.
You talk about 1982 when you first came to Wrigley, and I was a reporter there at the time, and we said, gee, this Sandberg kid is really quiet. But what we mistook, I believe, Rhino, is the fact that you didn't want to disrespect the game or your teammates, so you never wanted to talk about yourself.
Well, in '82 as a rookie, it was something to be in the big leagues. I hadn't been around the big leagues. I hadn't been in a big league spring training camp. I've been in the minor leagues. And I'm on the field with Larry Bowa and that time Bill Buckner and Leon Durham and Jody Davis had been there a few years, Lee Smith. These guys were older than me, and I had respect for them. That back then you didn't come in there and say too much. I think that was the standard thing, but you kind of kept your mouth shut and went about your business and earned the respect of those players, and that's what I did. And not only that, but as a young player, I was all ears and eyes to try and learn something my first time in the big league spring training camp, and then pretty much the whole year of 1982, just learning as much as I could from the veteran players.
And you were a complete player as far as defense went, base running went. You came up in that fabulous Phillies organization at the time that had hundreds of great players. But talk a little bit about 1984 and your conversation with Jim Frey that kind of changed your hitting mechanism around.
Yeah, for sure. My third year in the major leagues, just won a Gold Glove at second base, but Jim Frey took over the team as the manager. He just came from the American League, which he was a big Earl Weaver type of a manager. That was his mentor. And of course, that meant that he liked the 3-run home run. So he watched me play some spring training games, and I'd hit the ball hard on the ground and some hard grounders and some doubles, things like that. He saw with my strength and my body size that I should be able to drive the ball out of the ballpark every now and then, and especially playing here at Wrigley Field. I'd never been told that in the minor leagues because I ran so well. So he did some drills with me for about 10 days straight. He taught me how to turn on the inside fastball in those situations where that might be coming. And it got to the point where that's where they were pitching me because I was doing well with the outside pitches the first 2 years and hitting those the other way and getting base hits up the middle. And now it was time for me to turn on the inside pitch. After those couple of weeks, had some success in spring training with that. And then on opening day in San Francisco against Greg Mitten, he's a hard sinker ball pitcher on the inside. He gave me a pitch and I hit it for a home run and instant results. And all of a sudden that changed my whole way of thinking about hitting, looking for the fastball in a certain situation, heading the count, and look for it to drive and do some damage with it.
You're kind of talking about like the evolution of yourself as a player. Can you also describe, you mentioned the journey to get to this point, from getting traded to, I mean, just the progression as a player, but also as a person, everything you've been through until now to where you see your statue unveiled, just what all this is like, what you've gone through.
Well, it's just incredible. You know, my baseball career, I had a certain toughness about me and an everyday player, and I played hurt. I played with stitches. I played with the flu. And you know, when I played a game with the flu and I had 2 or 3 hits and ran the bases, I sweat the flu out. I felt better the next day. And I got the hits and you know, help the team win a game. So that was my mentality as an everyday player. And post-career and even up to today, the growth that I've done and what I've gone through with the journey, it's kind of back to my work ethic and my game plan and my focus, and this is what I'm going to do today. And I will tell the Cub fans today I'm feeling very, very good, and I think it's about this. And I think it's all about that I've gone about it with a positive attitude and kind of my game way of playing the game of baseball.
Like everything else in life that you have done, Ryno. And I'm curious, from the moment that you heard that you were going to be getting this statue, describe for us the process, how much you were involved. I know your wife Margaret was involved as well, and how much you knew before seeing it today.
Right, I was told 18 months ago at the Cubs convention in front of the Cubs fans there in a packed grand ballroom, and that was something else. When I found out about it, and then the journey with it, they wanted to know my input on the pose, and for me, it was all about playing defense. You know, the first thing when I take the field was make sure that I went out and did my defensive work. I'd actually get up a sweat, and I'd cover every play, every throw that I'd have to do in the course of a game, including some pop-ups, the dreaded pop-ups with the sun in short right field or in short center field, but making all the throws. And once I did that, I was ready to play defense and ready to play the game. And then as far as the defense goes, and then I'd go and work on my hitting in the batting cage, and so it was always defense first for me. So that was the pose that I wanted to go through, and defense for me was every day. I brought my glove to the ballpark and took it to the field every day. We have a starting pitcher out there. We have relief pitchers. I've got first baseman, a second baseman, a third baseman, the whole outfield. It was my job to play defense every single day. I did go into slumps, which would happen, but I still played my defense. And so there weren't too many slumps now that I think about Bruce. But anyway, I was able to fight my way out of slumps, but defense, I always tried to stay consistent.
Ryno, I always had great respect for you as a player and as a Hall of Famer, but as a man, when you stepped away from the game to put your children first was something else. And again, always alluding to Margaret being there for you. Family first, your journey now. Talk a little bit about the strength in sharing it.
Well, for sure, it is family first for me, and that's another thing that's constant. With this journey I've been on now for the last 6 months, for me, it's all about family, and even extended out to friends, and it extended out to Cub fans as I made it public with Instagram and let them in on my journey. I wanted to come to Wrigley Field on opening day, and I wanted to walk around, and I didn't want the Cub fans guessing if I looked a little different or how I was feeling. So that was one of the smartest things that I did. And since that moment in January, the flooding in of posts on Instagram and the comments and the letters that I got in the mail and walking around town, the comments on their concern and how things are going, that was awesome, and it still is today. So like I said in my speech, now all the Cub fans are friends of mine. They always were, but now they're even to a different level of friends for me.
We can only imagine how much that support helps. It's amazing just to hear how you're doing. We're so glad to hear that you're doing well, and thank you for updating the progress as well, because that's probably not easy. And I'll never forget, one of the first things that you told me was defense is every day. So as much as you and I love to talk hitting, it was always defense every day, and you stood by it, and it's so nice to have a statue that shows that. Bruce, thank you for joining. Ryno, thank you so much for being here, sharing your thoughts. It is so great to see you.
Thank you.
It is a fantastic statue. I'm glad that we can see you every day here on Statue Row at Gallagher Way.
Thank you.
That'll do it for the Ryne Sandberg statue dedication. Thanks for watching.